instead of giving me a study?
Because you're a professional debater, and the entire concept of your channel is to engage meaningfully with topics and not just talk about
I think in order to engage meaningfully in topics such as conversations surrounding the complexities and the nuances of economic outcomes produced by major policy-oriented moves, such as the mass deportation of millions of undocumented immigrants, okay, you're going to have good reason to believe in these things. I'm just simply asking you, why is it reasonable to believe that you're right? And the way in which I'm asking you to demonstrate that it's reasonable to believe in what you're saying is to give me a study in which echoes what you're saying. If you were right and mass deportation was super good for the American economy, bolstered it and created more jobs for Americans and reduced the unemployment rate for Americans, well, then there'd be a study to demonstrate that that claim is true. Do you have an economic study to demonstrate that that claim is true?
No, but let me explain why I believe that study cannot exist. Wait. No. Listen, everyone knows that you're a better debater than me, and that's like, You're being too proud of yourself that you're beating me. Of course you're beating me. You're way more educated. You're a professional at this.
Bro, I never said I was proud for beating you, dude. What?
You seem very happy that you're kicking my ass, but I'm trying to explain why the fact that you're kicking my ass doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It's just because you're so well spoken and so smart. But like, let me explain my thing, okay? So I think that there could never be a study like this because the jobs that are employing illegal immigrants, obviously, they're not going to get them for statistics because, like, it's illegal. They wouldn't want to employ an illegal immigrant.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics, alongside the American Immigration Council, do report that 8.3 million undocumented immigrants are working in the economy. We could yield this conclusion with the use of many means, such as looking at the fact that we literally have work programs and permits for undocumented immigrants so they could use ITINs to get a job. Thank you, Obama. Or the fact that we could generally describe the economic output of undocumented immigrants. Look at institutes like the Cato Institute that did a study on the economic output of undocumented immigrants, or once again, look at the American Immigration Council. And then by their economic output and other economic facts such as, how much money they're likely to get paid in comparison to citizens, and then how much citizens get paid, and then what percentage of what they get paid do they pay in taxes, and then what percentage of what they get paid is then spent in the economy, we could then work backwards with those facts to then yield the inductive conclusion that there's probably X amount of undocumented immigrants that are working, which is exactly why your claim that we can't study the impact of mass deportation on the job market is false, because we do study the impact of mass deportation and undocumented immigrants on the job markets per the literal studies that I just gave you, per the literal institutions that I just that I just gave you, and per the literal inductive argument that I just gave you. So you're confidently wrong.
Would you agree that if a study is required to make companies that are doing illegal things admit that they're doing illegal things, then the study is inherently flawed?
Okay. No, because nowhere in the inductive case that I just gave you does it require companies admitting to doing illegal things. And B, it's not always quote unquote illegal for an undocumented immigrant to work. It's just illegal for them to be here because of the work programs laid out by people like Obama.
Yeah, so the thing is that the study that you're looking for cannot exist. And let me elaborate on that for just a second. I'm sorry that I'm not as fast.
Bro,
okay?
you're repeating yourself. You already said it can't exist. You already explained the reasons why you think it can't exist. And then I already debunked
then I'm not
the reasons
convinced by your
why
reasons.
you said
I think your reasons are not good enough because you have a hole in your logic.
My reasons literally just falsified your claim. The claim that you made is that the study can't exist because it would first necessitate that companies admit to doing the illegal practice of hiring undocumented immigrants, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you should be convinced that you are wrong because I can falsify that claim. I'm going to falsify that claim again. Are you ready to listen?
I am locked in.
Okay. Studying how many undocumented immigrants are working in America does not require that companies do admit to doing illegal things for two reasons. The first reason is because in many circumstances, it's not illegal for a company to hire an undocumented immigrant as long as that undocumented immigrant is in the undocumented immigrant work program and has an ITIN. The second reason why is because to even study cases where there are undocumented immigrants working illegally, we don't have to get the company that's employing them to admit to it. We just have to look at the overall net economic outcome of undocumented immigrants, compare that to citizens, and then we could contrast other facts such as what are they paid on average, how much do they pay in taxes on average, and what they're spending on average to kind of work backwards to then therefore yield an estimate, a good estimate of how many undocumented immigrants are working.
But when they're paying their taxes, like, how would you know if they're illegal? I get what you're saying. You're saying let's reverse engineer it by the things we do know, but how would you know if they're illegal?
when you pay taxes, that is attached to you or your business. You pay taxes on a social security number or an EIN, okay? But when an undocumented immigrant pays taxes, clearly they're not going to have a citizen social security number, and clearly they're not going to be the citizen owner of an American business attached or affixed to an EIN. So when people pay taxes without those things, okay, well then we could also check if they're like a resident or they have a temporary or legal protected status. Okay, if they don't meet those criteria, well, guess what? They're an undocumented immigrant, and then that could be verified through like applications and approvals, or even existing in like the ITI and work program for undocumented immigrants. But once again, like the main thing that we're looking at here is we look at the overall economic production of undocumented immigrants, and then we average that out to determine how many undocumented immigrants are producing, and then that's a general gauge in contrast with maybe what their labor force participation rate is and what the general unemployment rate is for everybody in the country to how many undocumented immigrants that are working.
Okay, that does kind of make sense. Also, to your chat, everyone's saying me, she's an Israeli. I looked through her page. She supports Netanyahu. I do not. All of my page is anti-Netanyahu. Okay, I got to educate you because you don't know these faces. I'm working with the opposition. That's my job in my life. So I just want to say that. I'm a Zionist that's working against Netanyahu.
Do you think that abortion's wrong?
No. I think that, like, it's something in between. I don't think that it's just a clump of cells and it's nothing, but it's also not a baby. So I think given the fact that it's not fully a human, the human mother should get more rights on her autonomy to her body. But I don't think it's like a clump of cells.
Why do you still support Trump, considering the fact that I've beaten you on the conversation about economics, I've beaten you on the conversation about immigration, and because of Trump, 66 million American women and girls don't have access to elective abortions in this country, and every 24 hours like clockwork, 60 women/girls who are raped and impregnated are denied access to abortion in 10 of our 50 states.
I think that firstly, it's not that he made that. He gave the states those choices. So the thing is, if a state
Robert E. Lee won the Civil War, he wouldn't be in part responsible for slavery because he just upheld individualistic states' rights to legalize slavery. Get out of here.
But I think that, like, if a state is very, very right-wing, like, a state can have a right to impose, to a certain extent, its own beliefs on their people. So, for example, a state that is... Yes.
If I know that if I give my child a gun, they're going to take that gun to school and kill 10 people... but I decide to give them access to that gun nonetheless, and then they choose to take that gun to school and kill 10 people, am I partially responsible for them taking that gun to school and killing 10 people?
You're fully responsible, but let me tell you the difference, because I think... but let me tell you the difference.
So Trump's ability to states to ban abortion, that they will ban abortion, and then he gives the ability to states to ban abortion, and then they do ban abortion, he is partially responsible for them banning abortion.
But abortion isn't a school shooting. Like I said, I think that abortion is a gray area. So, for example, like I said before, I'm an atheist. So I don't think that a Bible should be a part of a school's curriculum. But in states like Texas, or states that are extraordinarily right-wing, then I do believe that they have the right to implement the Bible.
Can you actually respond to the argument that I just gave you? You seem to be avoiding it.
Yes.
I'll repeat it.
You agree I'm not avoiding it.
That if I know that my kid, if they were to have access to a gun, would kill people with it, I am partially responsible for them killing people with it. So if Trump knows
the difference is
that if states were to have access to legislating on abortion, then they will ban it. Okay, well then he's partially responsible for them banning it. There's no difference in these two scenarios as it relates to determining the responsibility that would fall on the individual that allowed the second person to gain access to something, and then what they did with said something due to the fact that they saw it as a reasonably foreseeable outcome.
Yes, but the difference that you have to make is whether we're saying that banning abortions is like a school shooting, or whether it's closer to things like teaching Bible.
No. We're not comparing the actual action of.
I know. You're comparing the responsibility.
To the actual action of shooting up a school. We're comparing the dialogue and the train of thought that would amount to determining who is and is not responsible for these particular outcomes. How about this? How about this? Okay. If Trump gave the ability to the states to legalize slavery, and then they did legalize slavery, would Trump be partially responsible for the legalization of slavery?
Yes, I just don't think that banning abortion...
If Donald Trump gave to the states the ability to criminalize abortion, and then they did criminalize abortion, why would he not be partially responsible for criminalizing abortion? The only thing that we are changing in that thought process is the ability that he's giving to the states. But you're saying in one scenario he's responsible.
I do
and
think
then in the other scenario he's not responsible.
No. I'm saying no. I said he is responsible, but the difference is what that responsibility leads to. So because I think that abortions is a gray zone, I think two things. I think A, that it was not just like it just wasn't that big of a deciding factor when I didn't cast my vote because back then I was underage. But when I was deciding on who to support, and even when I'm deciding who to support now, I just don't think that's one of the main issues, because I think that